All right, everybody, got ourselves a jam-packed show here. It is officially the off season, and so we got some news and notes to start digging into. We're recording this ahead of the NBA draft, but you may never hear this because if something happens, my guy Greg, he's got you covered here. So he'll have some thoughts for you on that. And then we hinted at this, but when you have a championship team, it makes you reminisce on championship teams past. And of course, we've talked a lot about the 2018, meaning a lot to both Greg and I. So we're going to talk about 08 verse 24 and in honor of the NBA draft happening here. We're going to do it draft style, all that and more coming up next here on Green with Envy. Let's lock in. What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, it's your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? It is the summertime. Your boy is back in Boston, getting ready to head down to Cape Cod. Enjoy a little bit of that beach life pre-July 4th. And as always, joining me for what is likely to be the last time before he is officially in the Parenthood Club is my best friend, co-host, and the coach of the podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis. What is good, man? Give the people baby watch update. I feel like we're in an Anchorman Panda watch day 274. What's the update?
Update, baby's still hanging in there, man. There's like I'll spare you the details, but there's some bodily things happening that are making us think that the baby should be here within the next 4 to 5 days, I'd say max, but due date's July 3rd. There's still a chance that it's America's baby. And we're just waiting for him to come on out, man, and join us out here in a world in which the Boston Celtics are champions of the NBA universe.
I love it. And, any chance we get some hints or nods or homages towards this championship team from the baby when the baby's born?
In terms of the name or just coming out just
the names or anything that we're shooting for here, I don't know, just anything that we may have that could be on the horizon here.
Not yet, but I'm trying to sneak one in. I will announce it if I can get it. If I can get it on the birth certificate, I will. I'll do everything I can to sneak an homage on there. But yeah, we are officially just waiting it out.
You sneaking one in is how we got in this position to begin with. So, we're going to start it that way. Let's end it that way. That's how
true.
It goes.
That's true.
Well, we'll miss you here on the podcast. Obviously, I'm going to try and just a quick programming note. We'll see what happens with the baby. That's the first priority here of the podcast. So, but I will still have you covered with some form of content. We don't know exactly what that will look like yet, but it's the off season. I'll be bringing in some guests. I might even do a few solo pods if needed. So we're going to have content for you guys throughout the summer as things pick up with free agency. As I mentioned, draft is happening. And so if the Celtics make any significant moves with pick 30, Greg will have, if you're listening on the audio version, Greg will have addressed those here at the top of the show. If you're listening to us on YouTube, check in the quick hits likely section. We will have something for you there as well if it is after the draft. But Greg, before we get to news and notes, anything else that you wanted to hit there before I cut you off with those programming updates?
I guess the review of LASIK surgery.
Oh, yes. I forgot about this update. Honestly, you're a new man. I'm wearing glasses. This is now officially a one follicle or a one glasses podcast right now.
Yeah, man. It was a really interesting experience. Honestly, it was a lot scarier than I was expecting. Like if somebody had told
not helping the case for your boy here, which that's my only objection to it, is that I'm scared of lasers.
Would you be able to handle hearing your eyeball being burned and smelling your eyeball being burned?
Nah, dog. Listen, I'm literally in my cousin's work office right now. I didn't know that she had done LASIK. We were talking about it last night, and I was mentioning how you just got it, 3-4 days ago, whatever it was, pretty recently. Yeah. And so, and same thing. She did it 8 years ago. So I was trying to figure out like where we go 8 years to now, like what's the difference? And it's fairly similar. I think where you're up to closing your eyes for 4 hours now, that's like the biggest improvement of not having to. And even with her, she was like, by the time I left the office, like it was like kind of cloudy, but it was like I had to keep my eyes closed, but I could still kind of see already of like, where this was going, but I think someone else has told me exactly what you just mentioned. And that's the part, and that's the other part of my head where I'm like, if I could be knocked out for this procedure and they could like clamp open my eyes, I would have done it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But having to be awake and the smell and the sound, I'm afraid I'm gonna freak out and move. I don't know.
Dude, it was pretty scary. Honestly, they take you in because I was apparently legally blind, which is what I didn't know, but the
Were you
doctor
that
told me.
bad?
Yeah,
I mean, I put on your glasses and I know you were like what, negative 6 point something or other?
25, negative
Yeah.
6.25. Yeah, and the doctor
It
told me,
wasn't
he was like,
good.
"Yeah, I'm happy for you because you're legally blind and it's gonna be really nice for you to be able to see." And I was like, "What do you mean I'm legally blind?" He was like, "Yeah, like your prescription and like
Could
your."
you have been parking in handicap spaces this whole
That's what
time?
I
We just didn't
said. I
know?
said, "Why didn't nobody tell me this? I could have gotten some accommodations over the years. God damn." Because like my phone, the text on my phone is so big. Everyone, and whenever someone looks at my phone, like screen watches, they're
Yeah,
like,
you and Mike Conley Sr.
yeah, me and Mike Conley Sr. Exactly. And so you go into this room and you're blind because you don't have your glasses on, so everything's already blurry. It's super dark. It's like this controlled laboratory of sorts. And you walk in there, and the doctor tells me, he goes, "Okay, I just want to let you know we're gonna have music playing the whole time." So I'm expecting some like kind of serene music to hit
Yeah.
the mood. He's bumping legit like techno. And I was just like, whoa, this is like really freaking
Techno and lasers in your eyes. Like lasers and techno go, not when they're in my eyeballs. Like that's I
it
would have
was
hated that.
it was a lot. I felt like I was abducted by aliens and that they were just doing experiments on me because like they're all wearing their headgear and whatnot.
Yeah.
They asked me my birthday. I shit you not, 4 times in the matter of 2 minutes. They're like, "Can you just confirm your birthday for me?" And then another person came up, "Well, can you just confirm your birthday for me?" And then like as they're about to do the laser, "So your birthday again?" And I'm just like, "Are what's happening here?"
Was it like a cognitive test or like what was
I didn't
the
I didn't know
reasoning?
if it was a cognitive test or if they were like trying if they were wondering if I was in like some flight or fight state and they were
Fight or
just like
flight state? Yeah.
yeah, flight or fight, that's how you say it, right? And I was just like, February 23rd, and I started questioning myself, like, am I saying it
Right.
wrong? Did they actually sneak me some gas that I'm not
Mhm.
aware I'm about to go under?
Right, because
Um,
that's how they usually do it for something like that. But you don't go under. So that this doesn't make any sense to me unless I don't know. That once again, that would have made me feel like, are you guys incompetent then? If I'm not missing this, like
yeah.
what's going on right now?
But then, dude, what they do is they're like, "Oh, we're gonna put some numbing eye drops in your eyes." They put numbing eye drops in your eye, but you're the whole time you're just like, "Is this really enough eye drops? Like, are my eyes actually gonna be
Yeah.
numb here?" And then they put like the eye clamp thing on you to keep your eye open, and it's like a lot of freaking pressure. And then they're like, "Okay, well, look straight ahead. You're gonna see a green light. It should be clear right now." And then all of a sudden, it's gonna like explode like fireworks. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, let us know when you see it exploding. I'm like, I see it exploding. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, 20 seconds. Then the music's just bumping. And then you just hear your eyeball sizzling and you can smell your flesh burning. And you're like, holy shit, I need to
Dude, this
somehow
sounds like a
continue to
fucking
look
Michael
forward.
Bay film.
It was a lot, dude. It was a lot. My immediate thought afterwards was like, I don't think Will would like this procedure. It
And
was a lot, dude.
that is the case in point that of why I have been resisting getting LASIK. So that's not going to help the case. But sounds like at the end of the day, after all of this, eventfulness, you're good to go and you
I
can
can
see
see
fine.
my
Any
eye.
issues?
I'm definitely like experiencing a little dry eye at this point, but
Okay.
they said that's natural. So I just have to put eye drops in my eye like very consistently throughout the day for
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
first month. I have to wear these like really stupid sunglasses that cover. They look like little league baseball coach like Oakley's. They kind of look like
Yeah, they
those,
kind of
but
like they wrap around the side of your face, basically.
yes, a coworker of mine today. I said, "Oh, you like my LASIK lenses?" And she goes, "Oh, I thought you were just choosing to wear those." I was gonna say, "You look like a bug," and I was like, "Nice, yes, I'm just gonna look like a bug for for the rest of the summer, ringing in dad life, looking like a
Can you
bug." I
not
guess
go
that's
get some like
appropriate.
just like nice like we talked about this with Danielle, like you can't go get some nice polarized lenses that are not
I'm
like
sure I can, but
ridiculous like this?
that would
Yeah.
cost me some money, and these are free sunglasses, so I'm just gonna take them.
You are one that would rather look ridiculous than go spend a little bit of money to get to
Yes.
go get these. That does fit. So, all right, well, that's good to know that you got out of the techno club with some eyesight and that you're good to go on that front into dadhood. But on that note, let's actually get into some Celtics here. We got a couple news and notes I want to get to before we talk about 08 verse 24. We're going to do a draft style. That's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll get to that here in just a moment. But let's go through some quick news and notes since the last time that you heard from Greg and I. And just earlier today, we heard Brad Stevens talk on the mic ahead of the NBA draft, talk a little bit about life after winning a championship, getting set up for the draft. But one of the bigger news items that came out of it is the Kristaps Porzingis. We all knew shortly after the postseason wrap, we were well aware that he was going to need surgery. Apparently that's scheduled. He's going to miss the Olympics. I know he really wanted to help Latvia, who was in that kind of last qualifying tournament chance to get into the Olympics. He won't be playing in that. He'll be getting surgery in the next few days. And then from there, we'll know a timeline. So I don't know if there's much to talk about here, Greg, but just any thoughts of now we know officially KP's out of the Olympics, getting the surgery, and probably sometime next week, I'm sure we'll then be able to wrap our head around, is he missing training camp? How deep into the season? We'll know more of that info then. So for now, just the base announcement of surgery definitively happening.
I think that's good for the Celtics that he's getting surgery. He's not going to try and push it off and play for Latvia.
A little nervous he might try to do that, which I would understand too. It's like your country pride, right? But it doesn't seem like, especially when we watched him in Game 5, like if that's going to be the peak of what you can give Latvia, like that's not even going to be worth it, man. Right? Especially when you think about your career, like. So I think at the end of the day, this is a really good thing. We'll have to see what the recovery time is. So TBD. But Kristaps, hopefully that surgery goes well for you. On a slightly sadder note, roster-wise.
Did you want me to finish my thought?
Did you have more thoughts? It wasn't much to think about, but yeah, go ahead. I thought you were saying there wasn't much, but yes, if you have more, please.
No. I was like, God damn, Will, I said 3 words. So I think with Kristaps last summer, you remember with Latvia, he had plantar fasciitis, right? So yeah. I think the biggest thing for him is 2 summers in a row not being able to play for his country. I think that's a lot. That's a tough pill to swallow.
And if correct me if I'm wrong, they made some noise for a little bit in the FIBA tournament last year. And they had Bertans. I think they have one other guy that's like a fringe NBA player. But obviously, if they were making a little bit of noise with them, with Kristaps, that would have really given them a chance to what would be a rare opportunity for them to compete in the full Olympic tournament.
Yeah, and I mean, how cool would it be? We've already talked about how cool it would be for Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, and maybe Jaylen Brown, maybe Derek White to bring home a gold medal after winning a championship in the NBA. Same thing could have happened. Would have been a long shot for Latvia to bring home the gold in the Olympics. But, with Kristaps missing out on any national team exposure for any of these guys is really tough for them. They always talk about how important it is for them to play for the national team. So it's a big sacrifice what Kristaps did for the Celtics, making sure that he put himself out there in harm's way. He could have gotten the surgery immediately, and who knows what the timeline is, but maybe could have played for Latvia. I don't know, but it's amazing to see, Kristaps make that sacrifice for the Boston Celtics because it was so important for him. And hopefully in the future, he can get healthy for both the Celtics, and maybe in the 2028 Olympics, he could play for them, or FIBA Cup 2026. Yeah. He'll still be young.
Are you done now?
Yeah.
Any more thoughts? Okay, cool. Didn't want to cut you off twice there. All right, but yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I don't know if they would have had a chance for the goal, but even just outside chance of medaling or being, in that, especially when you're the hometown hero, like there's 12 NBA guys on Team USA. There's 2 or 3 on Latvia, right? And he's the most well-known, most prestigious one of them all. So totally get it. Different, totally different experience, and unfortunately won't be in the cards for him in Paris this summer. On another roster note here for the Celtics, a little bit sadder. Might only be 1 season of the O'Brissy files. Looks like that's all we're going to get this out of Oshae Brissett, as he declined, I believe, it's about a $2.5 million option. He'll be an unrestricted free agent. He was still at Fenway with the team, so he's still on the tour as far as, celebrating the championship and living the life. But given the Celtics' financial restraints over this offseason and just going forward in general, most likely it looks like this is the end of the Oshae Brissett time as a Celtic. Not going to lie, Greg, I was really hoping we'd get another year of Oshae. I think he really, especially towards the end of the year, even though it was a specialized role, he had a place on this team. It seemed like Jason Tatum really, he was the first guy Jason Tatum hugged when the final buzzer went off, was Oshae Brissett. So certainly there was a bond that was kind of like built up throughout his time here. And, I mean, obviously, I hope he gets more than that 2.5 million with whatever he gets. But I was a little surprised because I really thought Oshae would be back here for year 2. Your thoughts?
I would imagine this is an investment in Jordan Walsh, that they're hoping, after 1 year of basically redshirting Jordan Walsh, that he might be able to earn a spot as the 10th guy. That's what
Right.
Brissett basically was this year, was the 10th guy on the roster. So, if you had to pay Brissett $5 million, or whatever the mid-level exception is, I don't even know if the Celtics can use a mid-level.
We don't have it. That's the whole issue, is that either he picked up that option or he can only come back on like the vet min, which is going to be less than what he turned down. So
right,
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense for him. Doesn't make sense for the Celtics. There's been a lot of talk about the value of second round picks, and when the Celtics kind of replenish their stock of second round picks, we have 2 second round picks, or we have one late first.
We have one. We've picked 30, which is the last pick of the first round, which it will have already happened by the time most of you hear this. If you listen to this podcast on the audio version, I feel, Brad Stevens, he's allergic to first round picks. There's almost no chance that he doesn't trade back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he'll probably trade back for a second round pick for that flexibility. And I think with Jordan Walsh, people are excited to see the kid play. He had a really nice season up in Maine, and I think with what Brissett brought to the table, he should be able to do 80% of that next year, right? And if it's in such limited minutes anyway, if you're Brissett, why are you hanging around for another year when you're really not going to get an opportunity to play? Right. He had opportunities to play as small ball 5, and the fact that he can't shoot, it's tough to be a non-shooter on this roster. And I think Jordan Walsh has shown enough promise as an outside shooter that I think the Celtics are willing to invest in it, giving him a chance at the start of next season. And I'm all here for it, man. Who knows? Maybe they'll bring in a veteran on a vet min that will push Jordan Walsh's development back another year, which would be fine as well. But for now, if the plan is give this chance to Jordan Walsh, I'm all for it.
I mean, there's a world in which this kind of works out perfectly for the Celtics, where I would have loved to have Brissett back and just be that 9th, 10th guy, whatever, and guy that you feel pretty good about being in that spot. But you give, like in your example, you give those minutes to Jordan Walsh, you're going to get at least a decent look at where his development's at, where he's at. And then you factor in next year, Sam Hauser's going to be due a payday that we might not be able to match. And certainly I wouldn't expect him to replace Sam Hauser to the level of the shooting. But if you can get up to, a certain level of shooting with Jordan Walsh, but he brings you another level of athleticism that you didn't have, you can still see the shape of this team. It's reshifted, but Jordan Walsh, and this is the point of Brad trading back, is on a very friendly 4-year deal. So now you might have 2 years of Jordan Walsh in that Sam Hauser role with the little bit of experience he might get in year 2 in the Oshae role. And so this could ultimately work out really well for the Celtics. Like, once again, they're going to be working on the edges outside of their main guys. And so this could be something that in that scenario plays out incredibly beneficial, even though you'd love to have it. But like you said, we don't know. There might be another vet min. They might not think that Jordan Walsh is up to the task. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But I do think whether or not they go get a vet min or they feel like Jordan Walsh takes that spot will tell us a lot about not necessarily what they think about Jordan Walsh forever, but what they think about him today or in, July 2024. That will tell us a whole lot about that.
Yeah, and you look at like the Denver Nuggets and what they've had to do, giving up on Bruce Brown. They might lose out on KCP, which is crazy to think about them just losing 2 of their most important role players. They lost Jeff Green as well last offseason, and they have to invest in guys like Christian Braun, like Peyton Watson. They have
Julian
to hope
Strawther as well.
Right. They have to hope that those guys in today's market, and I'm not an accountant, so I'm not going to like talk about all the cap details, but they have to know that these guys that are late first round picks and second round picks can be serviceable as 10th, 11th, 12th guys on a roster. That's just the reality of the new cap restriction. So I think with Jordan Walsh, it makes sense to really understand this is where we are as an NBA cap universe, and just plug him into that and see if he can swim.
Yeah, So we'll find out a lot about that going through this offseason here, and that will certainly be part of whatever programming we have coming up for you when it comes to what moves the Celtics can and cannot make here going forward. Another quick update with the Celtics here. Sam Cassell got elevated to the Charles Lee role on the coaching staff. So obviously we've talked all season about how Mazzulla actually having a reliable staff has made such a difference with his development, with the way that this team has grown, and from really the tough predicament that he was put in his rookie year as a head coach to what happened this year. And so I think shout out to Charles Lee for getting the Charlotte job. And I'm a little surprised that Sam Cassell hasn't really been mentioned as much. I know a few teams here and there got mentioned with interviews, but Sam Cassell has been a long time assistant coach with Doc Rivers and with others. And it's a little surprising, especially being a former, very successful point guard, multiple champion, as we're going to talk about. He's part of that 08 team that we'll get into here in just a minute. I'm a little surprised that he hasn't had that opportunity yet to be a head coach. So for him to remain on the staff and now get that top assistant coach role, I think being able to keep a little bit of that top end continuity on Mazzulla's staff, I think it's hard to really know exactly how much these coaches, what they're doing and what goes into it. But it did seem like Sam Cassell had a strong rapport with a lot of the players on this team. And so I do think keeping him around and not having to overhaul, which does happen when you win a championship, all of your coaches instantly become much more valuable. So not having to overhaul that entire staff, I do think is a very positive thing for this team as we look forward to them saying, hey, they have a chance to run this back and be special. Having that assistant coach like Sam Cassell back, it might seem like a small piece, but it might be bigger than we know without knowing all of the details behind the scenes.
Did you listen to Van Gundy on Zach Lowe's podcast?
I think so, but it was a little while ago, and I've been kind of busy. So tell me what you're thinking. So it might trigger my memory.
So Van Gundy, Zach Lowe asked him about Joe Mazzulla's
By the way, I did
development.
actually definitely listen to this. Yes, I know what you're talking about now. Continue.
Yeah. And he basically said Mazzulla was an interesting coach to observe because he didn't do a lot of talking. He was more of a guy that put guys through really interesting experiments. And he would let the assistant coaches do a lot of the actual instruction and talking with the guys. Like Mazzulla would have a lot of one-on-one conversations with people, but his voice wasn't as loud as Van Gundy is used to a head coach's voice being within the locker room and on the practice floor. So it's just interesting hearing Van Gundy bring that perspective as someone who's been in the game for so long. And when you think about Sam Cassell, who has always been someone to run his mouth and be the loudest guy in the room, it makes a lot of sense that elevating Cassell is going to be helpful for the way that Joe Mazzulla likes to coach, apparently, based off of the anecdotal evidence that Van Gundy brought about. So it's going to be really important for him to be back with the team. And I'm happy he's back. And I think it's a great through line for the next exercise we're going to do, comparing 08 to 24.
Absolutely. And real quick, before we get into that, I got to get your thoughts. You can keep this very quick. Your guy, you love Alex Caruso. This is the first move of the offseason, but Alex Caruso gets traded for Josh Giddey. I just want to hear your thoughts because I know how much you love Caruso.
It's a steal for the Thunder. They gave up a guy that they had kind of given up on. So, they give up someone they gave up on, and they get one of the best wing defenders in the league in a playoff scenario. You think about the wing defenders that you need to survive, and they're going to have two of the best in Lou Dort and Caruso. SGA is a pretty good defender himself. Jalen Williams is a good defender. And then you get Chet protecting the rim. I think they probably need one more bit of size on that roster, but Caruso can guard up. I think he's, when you think of Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, 1-for-1, seems like the Thunder got a steal. Josh Giddey does have a decent amount of potential. I was just thinking man, is there no one the Celtics could have given up that could have gotten us Alex Caruso? We don't have anything comparable to Josh Giddey, but we don't. And it stinks that he's going to, it's going to be fun for the Thunder fans to see Caruso on that team. I think it's going to be perfect for them if he can stay healthy. But it's a really good move for the Thunder. They just got a lot more competitive out west.
Yeah, I think it's a no doubt move for the Thunder. And, I like Josh. Josh Giddey was in a bad situation for his skill set with what the Thunder need. It just didn't make sense, right? I think with the Bulls, he can kind of be, and who knows, Lonzo Ball is supposed to be back, but he can kind of be the Lonzo Ball that they've been missing with, with whatever the fuck they're trying to do, which the Bulls are kind of a mess. I am surprised they couldn't pull off some form of a pick to go with it. But given how many the Thunder have and that it's, it was just straight up was a little surprising. But I think overall for both teams, pretty solid move. But wanted to get your thoughts on that with Caruso being your guy. But as you mentioned, we wanted to pay, the Celtics here, they're champions. The 2024 Celtics are your NBA champions. And Greg and I have talked a lot, as we referenced with Sam Casell here a few minutes ago. 2008 Celtics meant a lot to us. It's a big reason. It's a big reason we do what we do right now. And it's a team that is extremely meaningful for us in our lives. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of compare these two teams and see which team, which team is the better team. Which team do we think is the better team? And we wanted to do this in kind of a fun way. So we're going to do a draft. We're going to draft all the roster and the head coaches. I didn't tell you this before. Let's add the head coaches as picks in here. So that way it throws a little bit of a wrinkle in here. But let me give you a few stats just to reset and recalibrate on these two teams that will help set the stage. So regular season record, 2008, 66-16 versus 64-18 for the 24 Celtics. Playoff record, 16-10 for 08, 16-3 for 2024. Offensive rating, and I'm not going to give you the exact number because it's two different errors, but let's go with where they fell in the league. Offensive rating, the 08 Celtics were 11th. The 2024 version, obviously, best all time, number one in the league. Defensive rating, 2008 Celtics, number one. 2024 Celtics, number two. Overall net rating, both teams finished first in net rating in the league. 10.8 for the 08 Celtics, 11.7 for the 2024 Celtics. A couple of individual awards for each of these teams here. Second team all defense, obviously, for 2024. We've got Drew Holiday and we've got Derek White. On that 08 team, Kevin Garnett was first team all defense and the defensive player of the year. And then, of course, you have in 2008, Ray, Paul, and KG were all All-Stars. With the 2024 team, just Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And then you had from 2024, Jason Tatum, first team All-NBA, sixth in MVP voting. And for the 2008 team, you had Paul Pierce was third team All-NBA. As we feel, Jaylen Brown snubbed for this particular season, but, facts is facts. Did not make an all-NBA team. Third team for Paul Pierce, as I said. Kevin Garnett, first team All-NBA, third in MVP voting for him that year. So we've got the stage set here, Greg. We've got both rosters fully available to us here of what we want to choose. And I'm going to let you go first because this is your idea to do the draft. So I want to give you first pick here, and we'll snake draft it until we feel like we've got a complete team. And let's see what happens. So you've got first pick between these two NBA champions. Who you got?
I'd be crazy not to take KG. When you think about what you just said, third in MVP, he was first team All NBA, he was Defensive Player of the Year. Like, I kind of forgot how great KG was that first year. Like, when you think of the end of KG in Boston, you think of him kind of dragging his leg around, and he definitely didn't have the burst that he had in that first season. That injury is one of the it's one of the what ifs
yep.
for Boston Celtics fans is what if KG doesn't get hurt in 2009 because we had the best team in the league, and he was an absolute force on both ends of the court. And when you think about, we're going to talk about the coaches, we're going to talk about all the other guys on the team. KG with this Celtics team would have been an absolute menace. Like that Kevin Garnett on this Celtics team, holy shit. You're just kind of combining super healthy Kristaps Porzingis with Al Horford and kind of like merging them into one super player. Like
and assuming that KG pulls his range out 5 more feet or less than 5 feet, really. He shot really deep twos when you think back to like where KG was shooting. And I think at one point, I feel like I remember him saying, I could have shot threes. Like I shot threes in warmups all the time and made them. But just at that time, that wasn't the shot that I was being told to take. Because you got to think about like, before, I mean, he was really a product of the end of the 90s, right? Yeah. End of the 90s, into the 2000s, it hadn't shifted yet. So, yeah, he really would have been, that's a great way to put it, a combo really of kind of Horford and the best of Horford and Porzingis that you can put in there. And Yeah, I think KG is the pick here. I was curious if was there any consideration. So before I went through and read off, like you said, I forgot he was third. Like I didn't realize he was third in MVP until I made kind of the rundown sheet. I knew he was Defensive Player of the Year. Like that, I knew was was something he accomplished in that season. When we texted about doing a draft, was there any consideration that he wouldn't have been the first pick? Was Jason Tatum maybe in consideration?
No.
No, it's
No.
KG.
Yeah, KG. I mean, dude, KG, there's just like a level of transcendence of what he brought on the defensive side of the ball that is the one singular skill out of anybody on these two teams that is just elite of the elite is Kevin Garnett on defense. So I think you have to take that, plus the fact that he's also a great offensive player, great teammate, is going to set the culture for your roster. Like no question about being a dog with Kevin Garnett on your team.
Yeah, I think that's the right answer. I was trying to think if I really wanted to push back, but that's the answer. The answer is KG. I think and to be honest, I'll take my second pick, and it's Jason Tatum. I think the first two picks, I'll be honest, I think are pretty easy. I thought it was the two of them, and I mean, you can see that in the fact they both finished, near the top of the MVP. They were both first team All NBA. We just got through a run where we've kind of, like you said, KG's defensive abilities and his athleticism is his superpower. Jason Tatum's superpower is being the most well-rounded player that's getting drafted, and that's probably the case in the current NBA, and that's the case in this draft right now. There's a few other guys that are in the ballpark, but I think for this version, this is the other part. This is the 08 and this is the 24 version, right? Not like we're not talking about past versions of these guys or predicting where they're going. This is just right now. Jason Tatum is the most well-rounded player out of these two teams. And so if you're taking KG, I'm taking the guy that whoever I get second, they're going to fit. There's no doubt about it. I could pick anybody else from these two rosters here. There's no one that doesn't fit with Jason Tatum. That's ultimately his superpower, is that if you want to go with a small pass first guard, cool. You want to go with another shooter, boom, we can make that work. You want to go real big on the wing, you want to grab a big, like there's everyone that you can think of, they work with Jason Tatum. So I'm very happy taking my first pick with Tatum. So you've got KG to start. I've got Tatum. Let's go back to you. Who do you got for your next pick?
It doesn't go to you. We're not snaking.
I mean, I feel like do you I was actually thinking, do you do a snake with two people? Because it feels like we should just go back and forth, right? Or
yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean?
That's fair.
It's a little weird. Fair. Yeah,
we don't do a lot of drafts on the pod.
If three people, you snake, but I think with the two of us, we can just alternate.
Okay. I'm gonna go Jaylen Brown.
Oof! I actually, part of me didn't want to go third because I didn't want to make this decision. But all right, tell me why.
I really would love to see Jaylen Brown and Kevin Garnett on the same team. Just straight up, I would love to see what level of ferocity that KG brings out of Jaylen Brown. Straight up, that's what I want to see. I saw it with Paul Pierce, who's the other option here, and I loved it. I think the KG and Truth pod is amazing. Their chemistry is great, but I really would like to see what Jaylen Brown would look like elevated into the number one playmaker role with Kevin Garnett as like the ultimate teammate and the ultimate motivator for Jaylen Brown. I think that Jaylen Brown could actually be better than Jason Tatum.
just by having KG in your ear 24/7.
100%.
Yeah. No, I think the idea of the two of them together is pretty interesting, right? Because I mean, and let's be real, if we're just having fun here, you've seen KG and Pierce together, which is great, but KG and JB, let's try it out, man. A lot of initials so far in this: KG, JT, JB. But I'm with you. I like that pick. So I'm obviously taking Pierce. And let's just talk about this from separate of this draft. Pierce versus Jaylen Brown, I think, is pretty interesting. And this is where I think these two teams have some really interesting parallels, especially when you look at these top four. Because, like you said, KG and JT, they're the first team All NBA guys. Pierce and Jaylen Brown are probably overqualified number twos that could be number ones on playoff level teams, but not championship level teams. And they both, and this is a credit to also Garnett and Tatum, is that really the four of these guys what makes them so different and why I think without having, and even though KG finished third in MVP voting, I think it would have been slightly questionable if you were like, he's a definitive top 5 guy still at that time in the NBA. I'd have to go back and really, hammer that. And he's probably close, just like Jason Tatum. And I think Jaylen Brown and Pierce then also kind of at that time that we're talking about fell into that. They're probably the 12th to 17th best guy in the league. And the 4 of these guys, 2 of them on each team combining their superpowers is really, what put this team above and beyond, and that they happen to complement each other so well and be so selfless in the way that they went about it. And it's just interesting to think that that's the last 2 champions have these type of similarities, and is what makes them so interesting to talk about when comparing the 2 of them.
Yeah. Are you ready? So you're going Pierce?
I'm going Pierce, no doubt. Yeah, give me that. I'm getting buckets. I got JT and I got Pierce. There's one thing that I know this team is doing. We feel great on the wing, and we know we're taking step back jumpers. That's what we're doing on this team.
That's a pretty solid squad so far, man. I'm really having an issue with this next.
It gets
pick,
interesting
bro.
coming
I'm
up here.
filibustering a little bit.
Here's the thing: those first 4. There was a little debate about the order, specifically JB Pierce. I think he could have gone either way, but there was no way it wasn't those 4 that were going first, right?
Right.
And so now we're at the part of the draft where you got to think about, this is Rondo, but this is Rondo's second year Rondo, right? This isn't fully evolved Rondo. You got Derek White, you got Drew Holiday,
you got Ray Allen,
you got Kristaps Porzingis, you got Ray Allen. Like, there's a lot of choices on the board right now to go with, and I'm not green with envy for you right now, man. I don't envy this decision that you have to make, but what do you got? That was my attempt to help you filibuster.
Man, I think I'm gonna go with Kristaps.
Ooh, okay. I had a feeling you might go there. I wasn't sure, but let's see. So you taking KP?
KG
Explain yourself.
KG and Kristaps on the same squad, bro. Oh my! Like the rim protection from this team with Jaylen Brown being able to just pressure up and send them to either KG or Kristaps, and KG can be a little bit more perimeter oriented on the defensive side of the ball. Plus, I'm just thinking the argument for Ray obviously was the shooting, but I'm like, you know what? Actually, Kristaps provides. It's not the same type of shooting. It's not movement shooting,
right.
but he's still going to provide a hell of a lot of spacing and size. I mean, I'm trying to build a big bad team right now, and I think if you have Kristaps with KG, like that would probably be the best big man KG ever played with, was Kristaps Porzingis. So I think that would be pretty special between those. Like that front court with Jaylen Brown, Kevin Garnett, and Kristaps Porzingis is freaking huge, and everybody can shoot and everybody can D up. I really like that. I thought I was going to go Ray Allen, but I went Porzingis.
Yeah, it's a tough call, and as you're going through this, I'm like, damn, that's if we're ever gonna line up our teams right now, I'm getting a little bit nervous about your front line. Your front line is pretty intimidating. So I know that down the line there's definitely a few specific calls I need to make to try to counteract that. But it's what do I need now to impose my team's will on you? And this is where it's a little bit interesting. I have 2 guys that I am considering right now, and I'm trying to figure out it. And you're gonna take clearly the other guy that I don't take, and that will leave me another third option that I'm happy with. But oh God, this is tough. Give me Drew Holiday. I'm
You
going
bastard.
Drew Holiday.
I
Yeah.
wanted Drew.
I'm going Drew. I'm going Drew. And, part of it is I really was considering Ray, because this is still 2008 Ray. I mean, 08 and 09 Ray is a little bit slept on, in my opinion, of still how good he was. And he was good on defense too. Like he's not all NBA defense, but he would fit in with this 2024 Celtics as far as like spacing, being able to D. He's probably not as versatile switch wise, but he still fits the mold of a guy that would be really valuable on this type of team. I think the differentiator for me is that, with Drew, and we took the ball, and this would have been interesting when you think about it, because we took the ball out of Ray's hands, right? The way the NBA was set up in 08, Rondo needed to have the ball in his hand so much, and then if anyone else had it, it was mostly going to be Paul setting up pick and roll with KG or Pierce isolating, and Ray was just kind of that movement spacer, and him and Rondo had their own chemistry. But if you think about Ray in like Seattle, which was where he came from, like he handled the ball quite a bit. Like Ray could have handled the ball more. I think once we took it out of his hands, by the time we kind of wanted him to still be able to do it in like 2010, 2011, he kind of forgot how to dribble a little bit. Like it just kind of left him a little bit. But at this time, I think he could have. But I think because Holiday can handle the ball a little bit more, shooting wise, it's not going to be the same movement shooting, but Drew is still knocking down 40% of his threes this year. And then defensively, I'm already scared of your front court. I need a couple guys that are going to guard up. You know, JT, we praised him every round. He was guarding centers. He's going to have to spend some time on KG and KP if we're looking at this matchup wise. And I'm gonna need a dog like Drew to guard Jalen. He might even spend some time on KG. We saw Marcus Smart give KP problems in the past before he was with the Celtics. I don't know if that could still be the case, but if I need to throw Drew out there and go do that, I got that option. So I think Drew gives me just a little bit more versatility than Ray, but it's a tough call. But I'm sticking with Drew.
That's a good call, man. I was really expecting you to take Ray, so that
That's
just
very
threw
close.
That threw a wrench in my plans right there. Because think about the team I could have just had with Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Garnett, and Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, I could let that happen.
Man, that would have been a freaking squad. But I mean, my issue right now is I need a ball handler. I don't have a true ball handler, and Ray Allen isn't a ball handler, right?
Yep.
So I'm
There's
really
two options on the board that are really enticing, but they're not Ray Allen.
They're not Ray Allen, right? And I feel like I'd feel like an idiot if I didn't take Ray Allen, because Ray Allen is that good, right? As great as Derek White is, as great as Rondo is. Rondo was still very young at the time, but I got to go Ray Allen just because you can't pass up on that talent. Another shooter, like the shooting on my team is ridiculous right now.
Yeah.
We've seen Jaylen Brown and his ability just to step up as a playmaker this year. You put the ball in Jalen's hand a little bit more, and then you have a really difficult decision to make right now, and I'm happy with whatever your leftovers are. I'm going to get a great connector or point guard with my next pick, so I'm pretty happy with Ray Allen there. Now I have Jaylen Brown, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, Kristaps Porzingis. That's a freaking squad.
That's a squad, man. That's a pretty good squad. And like you said, Ray Allen, like the talent of Ray Allen, you can't pass that up. You can't pass it up. You had to do it. But I think for me, honestly, this next one, just because, like we said, this is 08 Rondo, it's pretty easy for me. I'm going Derek White. Yeah. I think Derek White, just this version of Derek White versus if it was this version of Derek White versus Rondo in maybe, what was Rondo's peak year? Maybe like 11 or 12, something around that time frame. That would be a tougher call, because that Rondo was insane. He essentially carried the big three on his back at stretches. He won 2 individual games against the Heatles. Like that was a very impressive Rondo time. But right now, Derek White, the defensive versatility, and specifically, we're living in a 2024 world. We love shooting. We love some shooting. That ain't Rondo. That ain't Rondo's bag. And so we're sticking with the versatility and the shooting. So we're keeping the same backcourt of the 24 Celtics, and then we're basically just replacing JB with Pierce. And so I like the direction that we're heading right now with this team. I feel good about it. I know your front court's a little bit scary here, but I'm totally okay with Derek White here in this spot and keeping the stock exchange together.
No, that's great, man. You also got a nice squad. I'm gonna fuck with you right now.
And I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm gonna go ahead and take Al Horford off the board.
I knew
you need a big man.
Were you triggered by me going through and running down, or not triggered, but was this idea? And as I was running through everyone that we have, like, I wonder if I'm giving him the idea to just take Horford, because taking Rondo makes no sense for me.
It doesn't make any sense for you right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Al Horford off the board, because I'm going to dare you to take Rajon Rondo, and I don't think you're going to do it, because I feel like I can get Rondo later in the draft, and I'm going to take Al Horford, and now you're going to rely on Kendrick Perkins, Big Baby, PJ Brown. Like, what are you going to do, man?
That's a hell of a pick, man. That's a hell of a pick. You've put me in a tough spot right now. So talent-wise is a very obvious pick. Otherwise, I'm scratching the barrel here, man, of what I want to do. You know what? Rondo just doesn't make sense. I can't do it. I'm not going to do Rondo. I just don't know what I'm going to do with that team. So I'm going to double down on size, shooting, versatility. Give me James Posey. Okay. James Posey is my pick here. we're playing a little bit of small ball for sure, but we're deep and we're versatile, and we're not afraid either. We got Pierce, we got Tatum out here, we got Posey. Drew can guard some big guys. Derek White's the only guy that's really gonna not be able to guard too many of the big guys. You have Horford. We can rock with him. KP in the post is gonna be a problem. KG with the pick and pop, because KG doesn't really shoot threes yet, so I'm not as quite worried about that. But his post up game is there. But I'll go with Posey, and I'm okay with it. Listen, I think Posey is another one of those guys that when you look at the '08 team, his skill set very much translates to modern NBA. The 3-and-D, versatile, can guard multiple positions. He's, you mentioned it when we talked about the Thunder. He's a little Lou Dort-ish, right? There's a little Lou Dort there, maybe a little bit. I'd have to look back at the shooting numbers exactly to see where it kind of lines up. But I think there's a little bit of a comparison there. So I'm happy with Posey. We're definitely going to be a unique team, but I'm happy with Posey. So I'm back to you now. Let's see. Are you gonna take Rondo?
Yeah, I think I gotta get my ball handler here, and
Yeah.
Rondo on this team
Great value.
very much like with the '08 Celtics. Like he's probably not going to be in the closing five, but he's going to have some great moments where he's going to. I mean, think about all the options that Rajon Rondo's going to have here, and all the space that he's going to have to operate because you got to hug up on all those shooters. The pick and pop with Porzingis would be insane. The issue is I don't know the fit necessarily with Jaylen Brown. I feel like that might be a little bit of a funky fit there. But because if the ball's in Jaylen's hands, which I think Jaylen has gotten to the point where you want the ball in his hands more often than not, Rondo doesn't really have a place on the floor. He was a really good cutter, but at this point,
that's true. Your ball handling dudes are a little funky here. Yeah, that's interesting to look at right now. That JB's basically got to be your second option here.
And Ray Allen, like at this point in his career, he still could be a good pick and roll ball handler.
We just didn't use him that way.
We didn't use him that way. It wasn't like in 2010 when he literally, as you said, kind of forgot how to dribble. So I'm going to go Rondo here. We'll have to work out some kinks, but I still have some options of who I can go with if Rondo is just too young to be a real factor for this team.
Okay. Let me see here. I'm trying to think of with my next pick. I might throw a little bit of a curveball here. Give me PJ Brown.
Okay.
I'm going PJ Brown. I got to get a little bit of height out there. PJ, I think he's just going to give me more versatility on the perimeter than some of the other bigs that we have left. Not that he's the greatest on the perimeter, but if you're going to have KP out there, I can have PJ out there. I can match up with some of your guys here. PJ classically can kind of match up with KG to a certain level. This is end of career PJ Brown, but him and Horford kind of, similar roles. Horford obviously much more responsibility in the two runs, but I think somewhat similar to that degree. And out of the other bigs that are left, I can't get old Perk. I just can't pick Perk. I don't think I have him to pick Perk, right?
I think he's going undrafted.
Yeah, I think he is too, right? Like it's pretty crazy. He's in the starting five, and I'm pretty sure he's going. Andre's the only member of either starting five that hasn't been drafted at this point.
We would target my team would target Perk on every single possession.
Exactly, and that's why I'm like PJ is going to hold up better, and the rest of the backup bigs, like I'll probably grab another one or two down the line here, but I think PJ is the best of that bunch. So before you mess with my team anymore, I think I got to go ahead and grab him right now while he's still available.
I respect that. I'm going to go. Now, this is an interesting actually debate here. Who's the better shooter in this scenario off the bench? Is it Eddie House or Sam Hauser? Because with Sam, I think Eddie is probably just the overall more impactful player between the two. But Sam's defense, obviously, we've talked a lot about on the pod. I think it's very underrated. I like the size that he brings. I think he would work really well in a switchable lineup. You put the ball in JB and Ray Allen's hands with Sam Hauser being the other wing out there. I like that as a closing five with Sam out there instead of Rondo. So I'm going to go with Sam just for the size, but Eddie House was pretty knocked down from the corners.
Yeah, I think that's the call. And I think, once again, we've talked about this a lot. Like size is the difference, right? If you can get similar skill sets, but one guy has a little bit more size, that's usually the tiebreaker, right? That's kind of just how it works. So I think Hauser is the right pick. I honestly think that probably would have been my next pick here if you hadn't already gone that route. So I was kind of hoping you'd lean Eddie House. Eddie House is my guy, so I do have room for him at some point here, but I don't know that that's going to be right now. So now I'm kind of looking around at my different options that I have. It's getting a little bit interesting. And you tell you what I'm going to do right now. I said head coaches are available. I'm taking Joe Mazzulla. I'm taking Madman
I like
Mazzulla.
this.
Dude, I've got a unique team. I don't have a typical team. I need a guy that's willing to think outside the box. That's going to challenge us to do things that we don't think we're capable of. We're going to have a lot of wings. We're going to have to play a lot of small ball. I need Joe Mazzulla out there trying to put some crazy ideas. Find a way that the math works for us. So give me Joey Maz, and let's see what magic he can work with this squad we got.
I like that because eventually you have to pick one of the coaches, right? But now I can just take Doc Rivers whenever I want, and I can just like double down and taking more players and build up my talent. So I'm gonna go Tony Allen because I need a defensive ace off the bench. I know Tony wasn't who he became in Memphis at this point, but he still had some moments where you threw him out there on Kobe for a few moments. Kobe gave him hell with the pump fakes. But I think TA coming off the bench, I think that would be a really fun defensive ace coming off the bench there. Once again, Tony Allen can't shoot, so that's an issue in today's NBA, especially Mazzulla would probably target Tony Allen, just leave him open on an island. But I like him being able to go out there, get into Derek White's jersey for a little bit, give Jason Tatum hell. So Tony Allen's the guy that I would bring out there. It's unfortunate that I'm not getting later career Tony Allen, but I still like the upside with this team and the dog mentality that I'm cultivating.
So a little bit of the reverse. I'm taking Leon Poe because Leon Poe, I'm getting this year. Leon Poe breaks down very soon after this with all the injuries in his career. I mean, obviously his highlight is that game 2 against the Lakers, and so I need more size. I need more size, and I need athleticism. And Leon Poe brings me that size and athleticism. He's not, obviously the big. I think he's like 6'8", 6'9", but he is very athletic. He's going to be able to move, and listen, I always wanted to see if Leon Poe stayed healthy, what a larger role would have looked like for Leon Poe. So I'm going to give it to him with this team. Him and PJ are my two big guys for the most part right now, along with Posey and Jason Tatum. So, yeah, he's going to get his shot. And let's see what happens. He's the judge now. He's doing all these animations on Twitter. So Leon Poe, welcome to the squad. I would say, Greg, let's do 2 more picks each, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm going to go Eddie House because you didn't take him.
There it is.
So I'm going to take Eddie House. So now your shooting off the bench is continuing to dwindle. So I'm getting Eddie House there. Eddie House was great as a Rondo replacement in that finals. So I'm going to go Eddie House. So now I have Sam and Eddie off the bench. That's a better version of Peyton Pritchard, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I'm taking. I'm taking Peyton Pritchard right here. So you better hope that if we end up in a game right here, you better hope that you don't give me the ball with 4 seconds left on the clock before the end of a game or end of a quarter. Because I got the guy that out of everybody that we've drafted so far, we know is knocking down that shot because he's him. That's what he does. And so I've got Peyton Pritchard with my pick. Greg, you've got 2 picks left. You haven't taken a coach. So I think by default, you just take Doc here, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be my last pick, so I'm just gonna go. I'll pick my last 2 because Doc's one of them, and then you can have your last 2. I'm gonna go Big Baby. Big Baby's on my team just for the vibes, just for the KG Big Baby relationship. That's who I'm gonna go with. I need one more big just for depth off the bench anyway. So Big Baby, I think he would be really interesting in today's NBA, honestly, just with his ability to just be huge. I think he was very nimble on his feet. I think he would actually be really interesting guarding out to the perimeter as a small ball 5. He was one of those guys that he didn't have a great jump shot, but he had more of a jump shot than I think people gave him credit for. And with the right shooting coach, I think Big Baby could have extended that out to 3.
Yeah, no, I think that would have been interesting to see what he looks like. And I mean, obviously, he had his moments with the Celtics and then had a brief stint with the Magic. But yeah, Big Baby's definitely a guy who I think in a different time has an even more successful career than what he had. I'm gonna go Luke Cornett. Need that size. Give me that. Nice. He's just huge. Gotta have him out there. And then for my final pick, give me Sam Cassell. We started talking about Sam Cassell early on. Give me a veteran presence ball handler that, I just got in reserve. And basically, really what I did, I drafted 2 coaches. So I've got 2 coaches that are ready to help us out here and figure out these matchups and how we can get by with that KG, KP, Al Horford front line, which is pretty terrifying. But I think we got more ball handling. So I think we have different ways we're going to be able to put them in certain positions. And I like this, Greg. This was a fun exercise, and it's really cool to look back at these 2 teams. Like I said, we talked about the big kind of 4 as they lay out as parallels, but then you talk about Eddie House and Sam Hauser as those shooters, 6th men, Al Horford, James Posey. I think there's a lot of kind of similarities and parallels that you can draw from these 2 teams. So let's end the podcast with this. Forget the teams that we just drafted. 08 versus 24. Who do you think would win an actual game?
I feel like it would be 08. I feel like it would be 08. Once again, the alpha of KG on the court. I think KG, imagine KG switching out onto Tatum, like in a big moment. Like you saw the issues that like Evan Mobley gave to Jason Tatum at times in these playoffs. Like I think KG would get into Jason Tatum's head. Paul Pierce closing it out, I think, is the more reliable closer. Although, I mean, dude, this 24 team is pretty damn good. But I think Pierce, Ray Allen, and Kevin Garnett, the original big 3, it's just they complemented each other really well. Although there were, I think, more bumps along the way than I think people remember. Like, remember there was that weird narrative that like they never had 20 points all in the same game. Like one of them always kind of struggled. So there definitely were some bumps and bruises along the way, but I think that the size of that team and the ability to go with the perkless lineup with James Posey, KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, and then insert whatever guards you want. I think that would be it would be a hell of a matchup, but I do think the KG-ness of it all would get it done.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I think this 24 team, if we're getting a healthy KP, I think 24 team wins.
Yeah,
I really do.
Right,
I mean, dude, the depth of talent with this so team, and here's the thing. I mean, you talked about it, like on the defensive side of the ball, Perk's getting exposed, and if you replace Perk, whether you downsize, whoever you go with, like there's going to be opportunity to then shift that because then offensively they're going to leave Rondo alone. Like, cool, you can pass, man. What else can you do if all we're going to do is leave you out there to shoot? Like,
Drew Holiday
going to make happen? Yeah, and then you think about just this 24 team, they can kind of shapeshift, I think, a little bit more than the 08 team can with anyone that they put out there. So it would be fascinating to see if somebody out there wants to put it together in a if you got 2K out there, you want to put together, let us know what it looks like, what the result is, who wins. I do think it'd be fascinating, and yeah, it'd be really cool to see who actually wins out. But I think ultimately the versatility of 24 wins out over 08, but 08 was also built at a different time. So, you factor that in, things could be a little bit different, but either way, you can't go wrong. 2 champions here. We got champion number 17, the 08 Celtics, champion number 18, the 2024 Boston Celtics. Greg, this might be the last time I see you podcast wise here for a little bit. As I mentioned, Greg is going to be probably taking a mini hiatus here while he has a baby, which he rightfully deserve. So who knows? But who knows? We'll be figuring it out on the fly here. So we will keep you guys posted. But that's going to do it for this episode of Green with Envy. Make sure that you are following us across all of our social medias. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube page. We will have much more content coming for you throughout the summer. Likely most of that continuing, probably a little bit of a 4th of July break here, but we will be back. Free agency is happening. The draft is happening. We will have events to talk about. The Olympics are coming up. We will definitely be heavily invested in that, especially with at least 2 Celtics as of June 25th. That will be there. Maybe a 3rd. We'll see if Derek White ends up on that team or not. But Greg, any final thoughts here before we send you out for a couple shows?
You know what it feels like, Will?
What does it feel like?
It feels like summer, baby. Make sure you're streaming Feels Like Summer, Black Sheep Optimists. Peace, everybody.
Peace.
It feels like summer, baby. Oh, mama, it feel like summer. New season got me seeing new colors. So fly, the sky will kiss you. Lips so smooth. that you chase with the Croy.